This is Sucheta Dilal. I'm recording this on Zoom from Pune because we're in the middle of COVID. So, what's my topic today? It's about the arrest, the unfortunate arrest, if you ask me, of the former State Bank of India chairman. In fact, it raises a question: is anybody safe from arrest anymore in India? If you ask me, no. But this column is not about the arrest of Shah Rukh Khan's son or all those activists and the vulture media carnival that happens around it as they are dragged to court and to jail and back again. It is about the sense of outrage and anxiety that has been triggered in banking circles at the arrest of Pradeep Chaudhary, former chairman of the State Bank of India. Now, why do we need to discuss this? Because there are many angles to it, and there has to be a process of law. This issue applies across the board, not just in banking, but in banking, it is important. And I'm going to limit myself to why this unfortunate arrest is sending the wrong signals as far as the financial world is concerned. Now, without holding any brief for anyone, least of all Mr. Chaudhary, and while admitting that we have, and any of you who have seen my video blogs knows that we've talked endlessly about the humongous bad debts, estimated sometimes at 20 lakh crore, which happen because of corruption, behest lending, bending over backwards for political masters. That's a given. That doesn't mean that every time something happens like Mr. Chaudhary's arrest, we just assume that it's corruption and it's not a bad decision. So, shocking tales of callous bankers riding roughshod over small and medium enterprises are also well known. But still, the case here is different. And yes, don't tell me that banks refuse to disclose names of large corporate defaulters, go after small people. I sympathize. I agree. All those are serious issues. Okay. But is this a case of irresponsible reporting by the media? No, media just reported it. Bankers think it's irresponsible. The question is, should he have been arrested in the first place? Now, for those of you who don't know, I have jumped to make a judgment. There's plenty of that judgment happening on social media and even the comments to my articles in MoneyLab. So let's recap and tell you the facts. The Jaisalmer police arrested Mr. Chaudhary on 1st November. The chief judicial magistrate rejected his bail and remanded him to 15 days of judicial custody. The matter goes back to 2013. Nothing happened. He was then the chairman, or had just retired. The allegation is that State Bank of India seized 2 hotels belonging to a company, which is the one that's gone to court, declared them as non-performing assets. Company was in default, was struggling to pay loans, had been restructured. All these are facts. Then in a laid down procedure, just proper banking, it decided to sell the loan to an asset reconstruction company. This is the norm. Asset reconstruction companies then make the effort to recover the money, and part of it is supposed to be even shared back with the bank. So it's sold at a fraction, supposed to be 50%. The fault here apparently tied Mr. Chaudhary's case later in 2014. He the same construction as a doctor. So there are allegations of wrongdoing. Let's talk about him having understood loans. If you ask me, not correct. But allegation by the promoter is that this loan at 24 crores, the value of properties was 160 crores in 2015, worth about 200 crore now. This is what is discovered when the asset reconstruction company went through a bankruptcy process and tried to find a buyer for it. State Bank of India, of course, has reacted to press release saying all due processes were followed, which is what I'm saying, that statements made in court appear to be correct and properly briefed matter. It is also because it will the whole public sector banking sector into a mess. Every person who takes decisions is going to be worried about whether they're just going to be hauled up in any magistrate's court across the country. To put in perspective, look at what Mr. Chaudhary was presiding over. Allegation, 25 crore underselling, right? One tiny loan going to Jaisalmer. State India is the 40th largest bank in the world, largest bank in India, accounts for a quarter of all the deposits in the country, which are, hold your breath, 50 lakh 33,914 crore at the end of September 21. And it has 24,000 branches. Was Mr. Chaudhary underselling this particular loan? Isn't it hard to believe? He's arrested 8 years after retirement on the charge that he did exactly that. Again, like I said, once the loan is transferred to the ARC, SBI has absolutely nothing to do with the valuation or event sale. Only problem they find is that he was on the ARC. So what should take, what they should show, directorship have, different ball game all. But remember what's now. He 15 days, his reputation is ruined, his photograph all over, and there is no evidence of wrongdoing as yet. According to bankers, SBI followed the DRT and SARFAESI process in this case, which is laid down. This company, I said, was a defaulter. With interest, the loans were about 40 crores in 2014. And all that happened is that this promoter was able to say things, go to court repeatedly, and get an order. Was the promoter wrong? I don't know, because the whole system is so unjust. I told you, it is unjust against small people. According to banking circles, this promoter is very powerful. It's constantly delayed recovery action. It was just 40 crore. But remember this, now things have come to a head because a former State Bank of India, the Jai Bank, has been arrested. And in my mind, the only positive outcome that should come out of this unfortunate affair is that it should focus attention on what are we doing to creditors and debtors. Why is it that absolutely large defaulters get away with murder, are protected, and it is the small people, in this case, a bold small person with guts who is mad. Focus attention. Dispassionate study of the DRT process would reveal that borrowers of this size are routinely steamrolled by draconian one-sided DRT laws, and the banking industry controls everything. The lawyers, the courts, the decisions. It is a one-way street, and it is very, very unfair. So if bankers are disturbed, and they are, so for another former chairman, Rajneesh Kumar, has called the arrest case of high-handedness. Another banker from SBI has accused the defaulter of gaming the system, and he wants an overhaul of the judicial process. Hey, wonderful. Let the process be overhauled to improve transparency and introduce accountability the way Sunil Srivastava wants, but let it work for both sides, the bankers as well as the borrowers. Remember, there's a huge difference between how small borrowers are treated and large borrowers are treated. The last bit is crucial because this case should draw attention to it. Now, D.T. Franco, who was General Secretary of the All India Bank Officers Confederation, has an interesting point to make. He points out that many assets are sold to asset reconstruction companies at 15% of the outstanding value, which is what SBI did, with a promise to pay more if it is recovered. Never happens. The bank loses. The promoter also loses. And the ARC walks away with an asset cheat. He says, what is urgently needed is a probe into all ARC settlements, at least after 2014, during which such sales were speeded up. That would be fair and transparent, right? As Mr. Franco says. Now, Dr. Rajendra Ganatra, another former head of an ARC, also points out the 15% outstanding value in this project would not make it undervalued. It's the norm, and it would mean that the total project is 200 crore. But does it mean that for a 40 crore loan, the promoter loses 200 crore? What are the circumstances? We don't know the facts. We don't know why a promoter would want to game the system or foolishly lose 200 crores worth of assets for a 40 crore loan, including interest. These things need to be investigated because they raise more uncomfortable questions about debt recovery and bankruptcy, raises questions about whether bankers are empathetic, give enough of time, They certainly are empathetic to large borrowers, even when they have shady reputations. Remember the case of Siva of Siva Computers and Aircel? Bankers have repeatedly, instead of a 5,000 crore loan, IDBI Bank was willing to accept 500 crore. It's the NCLT, the National Company Law Tribunal, the bankruptcy process that stopped it. There are innumerable cases where banks have done a 95 to 99% haircut for large borrowers, over 1,000 crores. And here you hear that a 200 crore asset was sold off and the promoter deprived because his outstanding was 40 crores. This is not a fair system. Bankers have ensured that draconian laws allow them to ride roughshod over people. So if this unfortunate arrest leads to one thing, it should lead to some soul searching. We can blame the judiciary. Yes, there is a problem. Our judicial system seems to have stopped working for most people, but let's also examine our laws and how they are implemented. If you agree with this, please do share this video. Thank you.